Oh hello, do you remember in the 90s where we just painted polystyrene to make terrain? Well, I'm feeling nostalgic today. I've chosen this piece because I like the shape as is. You could add some wear and tear, but mine's already had a skirmish with some tools in the cupboard. The one area I was tempted to smooth out is this bobbly front section where I snapped it off from a joining piece. But as I'm going to be adding some moss and green anyway, and I reckon that can be a nice ground level build up of foliage, so let's crack on. Here's what you'll need. Your piece of polystyrene, a decorating brush and dry brushes or cheap makeup brushes, some sponge, cheap black and white acrylic paint, and a few of your miniature paints. I'm using this plastic tray from a paint set to mix my first grey, a little blob of black and then quite a bit more white to start with, aiming for a medium-ish grey. You could seal the polystyrene in with watered down PVA glue first, but I'm not. We're going for a very uneven mottled look, so fully mixing your grey isn't necessary and neither is full, even coverage. As long as every area has some paint on it. Speaking of which, I'm struggling in small areas with this decorating brush. We'll grab a small dry brush as well. That's better. Now I'm going to splodge on some darker grey areas with a bit of torn sponge. This is simply a piece of normal washing up sponge from my kitchen. Nothing special needed here. Same again, no need to get the new mix too even. Actually, I've gone a bit too dark here, so I'm going back in with something in between the two, plus sometimes picking up sponge loads of the original. Keep it chaotic, and don't think too much about how it looks just yet. Now let's hit the upwards facing areas with a lighter grey, at which point our piece instantly starts to come alive. Don't be afraid to wipe as well as dab in some areas, and then soften those wipes with further dabs. You can keep this project very quick and stop after any stage you like, but I've got a few more easy steps to achieve my desired finish. Now mix an even lighter grey and grab a small dry brush to start some edge highlighting. Wick some of the paint off on a paper towel so that the brush isn't dripping, but nowhere near down to a dry brush scarcity. Ideally stroke downwards fairly heavily. We aren't going to build this up carefully over several coats. But as you will see, due to being a little hampered by the size of the piece and my camera, I'm stroking down, up, sideways, anything goes. Oh, and we'd better add Timmy to that hamper list. Now grab a large dry brush and with the same lightest grey start attacking the terrain to catch a few very sparse scratches and areas, but this time wick your brush on the paper towel very heavily as per normal dry brushing. This is looking pretty nice already. Now, armed with a medium dry brush and some dark brown, let's hit the piece sparingly to start working in some subtle colour variation. Now repeat that process with some dark red. In some places layer over the brown, in some places avoid the brown. You can use any colours you like for these steps. I'm just showing you a look that appeals to me. Don't worry about trying to miss the edge highlights. Some splashes of brighter colour look nice in my opinion. Same again with the light orangey brown. To me this colour really starts to sell the stone effect. I believe it's where iron traces oxidise. Remember earlier when I said dry brushes or cheap makeup brushes? Maybe go with the latter. Now I'm going to mix a very dark near black grey and hit all the recesses with the sort of panel line. If you don't want that slightly cartoony look, you can always skip this. Oh dear. In my haste to keep this project quick, I've merged in way too much of the previous greys on the palette and I got a very medium shade. Okay, that's fine. Let's water this down to a very thin wash and chuck it over most of the piece to dull down the colours and tie everything together a little bit. With that salvage done, I've mixed up a new near black, this time separate from the main grey mix, nice and watered down for this one. With a small dry brush, drag it along recess edges and stipple it into cracks. As with all the other stages, don't be too careful. We're going to use this as yet more colour variation as well as shadow. Now all the stone colours are down, I'm going to whiz back round with our lightest grey on the edge highlights. If your mix has dried up, just make another. Close enough is fine. I will avoid some areas where the red and browns caught nicely on the edges just to retain those splashes of colour. It's time to add a couple of greens to finish this off. I think it's important to do this last as the moss would grow over some of the highlights and wouldn't reflect anywhere near as much light as the shiny stone. I'm going to sparingly hit the piece with a dry brush loaded with dark green and then also paint those bobbly front sections. Now I'm going to do just one more pass with a much lighter green to highlight the darker green and also some patches on its own for variation. And we are done. You could protect it with a varnish of your choice, but I think I'm going to leave that for now as I might do another video where I add some more detail in to level this piece up. Like this hole. I'll definitely do something with that. and this arrow. If this were sci-fi terrain, it might look good in hazard stripes, but I may cover it up to keep this as generic fantasy or sci-fi. But for now, this is more than fine to deploy onto the tabletop and provide some valuable cover for defending troops. Thank you for watching, I hope this was useful, and I'll see you next time.